How's it going, folks? Indiana John here. And tonight I'm going to attempt again to make a checkering tool, checkering file. It's not exactly a file, but it's either called a checkering file or a checkering tool. And I have a few examples of, I didn't grab a test example of what checkering looks like, but it's often done on gun stocks. It looks like knurling. Super cool feature. Some guys do it on knives. I know Ben Breda does it a bunch. And either Breda or Breda. Ben Breda. Ben. He does it a bunch very well. And so does Pierce Richardson. Another cool knife maker dude. But besides them, I haven't seen many other people do it. And I'm working on a hunting knife. And I would very much like to do checkering up in the front there. Yeah. And I'm a little nervous to try it on this particular knife, but I really want to do it on this knife, so I think I will. So I bought a checkering file, but I doubt you can see that at all. But this has 3 rows. Let me see. Maybe you can see it's got 3 rows, which is too much. And the simple solution that any sane person would do would be like, well, I'm never going to use it with 3 rows, so I'll just grind when I'm off. Blah. Grind one of the rows off. But that feels like a crime, and I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just leave this as a 3-row tool. And I did a few attempts to grind or machine a 2-row checkering file. And I've tried like 3 completely different ways. And I've not gotten results that I'm happy with yet. But I finally have a plan of how I'm going to do it. So also, this is a single row checkering file, which is another thing that is quite handy dandy. This is a 90-degree. This is actually from a spade drill, or a paddle drill, or whatever they're called. And then that's from a sink, and that's from a free pile of wood. This is walnut. But yeah, kind of a fun little tool. But to get the spacing correct, I need a 2-row checkering tool. And this is another attempt that I had. Tried to use a single lip cutter grinder to make 2 rows. Sort of almost works, but it needs to be longer. It needs more teeth, kind of more like that proportion. So that's what I'm going to try to make. Hopefully it works. Hopefully I can use it on this knife. We'll see. So I'm going to prepare a piece of metal. I'm going to put it on an angle vise on the surface grinder. Do a little bit of trig to get 62.5 thou on centers of the 2 ridges, the spacing. So it's 16 lines per inch. I think that looks good. So I'll give that a shot. Yeah, over to the surface grinder. Psych, I totally lied. I'm actually going to rough in my V groove down the middle with an end mill. And that's going to be way faster and easier than grinding it. And I'm also going to use a diamond cutoff wheel to do my serrations. And I'm working with some hardened tool steel, not really sure what it is. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I know that it is 64 Rockwell, I believe. I can't remember. Checked it. Yeah, so it's plenty hard enough for just scraping wood. But yeah, the sharpening of this tool is kind of done on the surface grinder. So I want to get my serrations in there beforehand so that I don't have ugly burrs Yeah, so I'm gonna figure out, I guess I'll just tilt the head and cut my groove that way. Yeah, I don't feel like putting an angle vise on here. So I'll do that. I'll cut a groove, cut the serrations, and then go to the surface grinder. Okay, this is a little embarrassing, but I lied again. I don't actually want to use that bar stock that I had that's hardened, because that's 1/8 of an inch, which means, if you look at my nice little diagram here, if I want to get 1/16 of an inch on centers, that means I'll need a 32nd of an inch to the side at least on both sides, which means that I would want to use 1/8 inch stock. But John, you just said you don't want to use 1/8 inch stock. Correct. Because this groove right here, if I'm a teeny bit off to the side, that means one of these is going to be small and the other one's going to be long, and I don't want that. So I'm going to use 9/64 01 because I have it, and it is super duper soft. Yeah, so I'm going to use that. I'm curious how it's going to work if I do my serrations in the mill and then try to grind the groove here. What happened on that other piece, so we're tipped 45 degrees right now. This doesn't look like 90 degrees, but imagine that that's 90 degrees. That's more like 60. If it were 90, that's the edge of the wheel. The wheel wore away, and so it ended up with a swoop on one side, which I didn't like. And I should have just dressed the wheel more and then ground more, but I was impatient. So this time, I'm going to use soft 01, cut the grooves with a diamond wheel in the mill, and then I'm going to grind it, and then heat treat it, maybe? Maybe I'll heat treat it after cutting all the serrations. We'll see when we get there. We will burn that bridge when we get to it. Alrighty, I now have this guy, which has, let's see if you can see that. Almost just thinking about it. Anyways, has a crisp 90-degree inside groove. Boy, shiny stuff. Cameras does not work well. Anyways, it's got a crisp 90-degree groove on the inside, and the rows are 1/16 of an inch apart, 62 and a half thou. Is that right? Yeah, 62 and a half thou apart, ish. And my notches from the little diamond wheel are mostly washed out, which is kind of annoying, but it's whatever. And I machined a little recess. That'll make sense later. It's going to go on to a handle. A couple 1/8-inch holes, which should get countersunk with this little guy. Just a couple of quick things like that. And then I think the next thing is to heat treat this. And I'm just going to do it with a torch and a pair of pliers, or maybe a little set of tongs and a little magnet. It's not very exciting. I don't know if I'll do a video of that. That'll take a little while to get that up to temp with the torch, even though it's small. I don't have a oxyacetylene torch yet. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. Need to heat treat it, and then I'm going to put it back in the mill and grind those notches deeper. And then we're going to make a handle for it, which is going to be the fun part. We're going to do a thing similar to this one again. And then we will have to try it on something. Yeah. Let's heat treat it, grind it. I don't think I'm going to show you guys either of those, because you already know what both of those look like. And then the next thing you're going to see is wood lathe set up for doing a handle. I'm going to use a little ER20 or maybe even ER16 collar adapter in the wood lathe with a 1/4-inch bar. We're going to drill a 1/4-inch hole in a piece of wood, and I'm going to press that onto a bar and then put that on the lathe. Buzzity buzz buzz. Make a little ferrule, press that on with the arbor press. Bada bing, bada boom, Bob's your uncle. I do actually have an Uncle Bob. Okay, so I think you just saw the end of this guy. Probably can't see it now. Getting a flat machined onto it. After that, I drilled and tapped a couple 440 holes. And I now have it in a collet block. And I also did a couple of glue notches on there. And then I got a chunk of coffee wood. It's nice, pretty dark stuff. People always think it is Purple Heart. It turns very purple. But it is, in fact, coffee wood. And yeah, next up is a little bit of 2P10. Sorry, 2P10. It is awesome super glue. And just send some of that in there. Put this thingy onto there. Cool. Next up is to make a ferrule, as some call it. Make a ferrule out of some brass pipe out of a house that I worked on with Luke a while ago. Got a bunch of brass pipe, real thick stuff. I don't know if it's quite 1/8 inch, but I could find out. Yeah, 110, a little under 1/8 inch. But yeah, sweet stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna cut a little bit, true it up on either side with a 3-jaw chuck on a little South Bend lathe. And then I'm going to use a round over router bit as a countersink, so that as I press this on, it's not going to chew up the section of the handle that it's going to be going on. So it'll have that rounded leading edge, and then also this I'm going to cut a taper so that it will get progressively tighter the further on it goes. And then I might put this whole thing on that lathe. Oops. Anyways, yeah, I'll put this thing on the other lathe, chew up the end of the ferrule so I don't have to turn it with a wood chisel, and do a little sculpty, screw together, and the whole thing will be done. Alrighty, this is now, I think it's 50 thou oversized on the front and like 70 on the back. And there's a bunch of calcium junk in there from this being a water line in New England. But I think it might work. It's either going to work really well or the brass is going to blow up and shoot me in the leg. This is a perfect block on a perfect arbor press for doing ferrules. This is a number 3.5 Greenard arbor press. Let's see how this goes. I'll take the ear parts out. Oh man. Woo. Wow. That is a lot of, woo, a lot squishing. So I used glue because I was gonna hold this in, hold the steel part in that little collet adapter in the lathe and turn the handle a little bit. But if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't need glue, because this piece of brass is squishing so tight. It makes the wood kind of act like a collet on the steel. So this is never going to come undone unless this like gets ground off. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty confident that if this if the steel was like supported in a collet vertically, I'll bet that I could hang on this and it would not slip out. It is, that thing's on there. And that's the beauty of, one of the beauties of ferrules. The other one is they're just super pretty. Yeah, so now I think, ooh, needs to go a little bit further, just a teeny bit. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna put this on the metal lathe, buzz the end of that, and then back to the wood lathe, finish it up. Alrighty, so the final little touch that I want to add is with a pantograph. I want to engrave 16 LPI, 16 lines per inch. So this is a two-dimensional pantograph engraver, and because of that, the anchor's in the middle, which means that my letters are 180 degrees from what I'm going to be engraving. And then I measured that 2.8 inches, divided it by my ratio, which is 14, and so it should be about 200 thou long, and my thing that I'm engraving on is 1/2 inch long, so that's plenty of room. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna set this up, engrave it, and then show you the final piece. Alrighty, it is finally done. Once again, small shiny stuff. Maybe you can see that. Anyways, it says 16 LPI, lines per inch. Yeah, it's not perfect. The ferrule has like a teeny bit of a gap, which I either didn't notice or that shifted, which I highly doubt, or the mating surface was tapered, and when I ground away the outer perimeter, it revealed that the inside wasn't touching. So that I'll probably, I don't know if I'll do anything about that. I'll give it a little crunch on the arbor press, see if it shifts. And then this is gonna turn like a dark, kind of purplish color pretty soon. And I didn't grab a chunk of wood, but I did scratch my beautiful bench top. And again, I doubt that you guys will be able to see that, but it works very well, and I'm super pleased. I will be goofing around with checkering with these two guys much in the future. If I get good at it, maybe I'll do a tutorial on how to use them, how to do checkering, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. Yeah, if you're curious about, if you want to make one of these and you're curious about the math for doing a 90-degree double row thingamabob, let me know. I can try to explain that. For 1/16th of an inch center, the step over is 44th thou down, 44th thou over. You know, that's the hypotenuse of it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Wish me luck checkering this guy. I need it. I'm going to do a lot of practice first. Yeah. Cool. See you in the next one. Bye.